Hey guys, it's Karen, my review for Bodied. And what Bodied is essentially about is we center on the character of Adam Merkin. He is a college student who is doing a thesis paper on the use of the N-word, and through doing this, he ends up going to many various rap battles, and what at first seems like, a simple little term paper, quickly he starts to become obsessed with it and starts to realize that this may be where his passion lies. However, things start to get a bit more complicated for him when his rap persona starts to affect the persona in his everyday life, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Bodied overall, I'm going to be honest, I really was not looking forward to this movie. And there were two big red flags. One, it's a YouTube Red movie. And immediately, that's one of the things that took me out of it. The fact that it was a YouTube Red movie. Most of those, not all, but most, are known to be very bottom of the barrel. Most of them aren't even really all that seen. So hearing that definitely wasn't a good sign, but then when I watched the trailer, that also didn't excite me. The trailer looked very forced down your throat. It looked very, it looked like it was very forceful in its execution, and it didn't look funny. I just really was not interested in it at all. So then, to my surprise, were this sudden outpour of amazing reviews. Everyone was saying, oh, this is an incredible movie, and I'm like, okay, let's see how it turns out. And yeah, Bodied is fantastic. I really love this movie a lot more than I expected to, and we're just getting to right now, starting off with the cast. And look, I'll just say right now, is this some of the best acting of the year? No, but I really do think everyone does do a fairly good job. That being said, Calum is incredible here. I thought that he was very well casted, and look, I've always liked him. I didn't dislike him in things like Austin and Alley and American Vandal, but I've never thought of him to be the actor that he was in this. He just completely transforms in the role of Adam Merkin, who, to me, goes through one of the best character arcs of the entire year. He starts out, and this is very much a hobby for him. It's something that he's interested in, but nothing that he himself would consider doing. But you see that he starts to become very obsessed with the culture, and he loves the idea of rapping, and he loves what it can do for him, and you start to see what this does to him in his everyday life. What he eventually becomes is insane, and Worthy just completely kills it here. I loved what he did in this role. I thought he was at the top of his game, and I want to see him in something like ASAP, because this was on another level for me. I did not realize that he was capable of this type of range, but he really impressed me, and I really love what he did here. But someone who does very much rival him is Jackie Lawn as the character of Ben Grimm. Not the Fantastic Four character, although that is very much a recurring gag throughout the film. But his character, I really love. This is basically Adam's protege. He's the main person that he's interviewing. He's the main person that's helping him out with this paper. And eventually, he starts to, he starts to kind of take him aside and make him understand the type of culture he's getting himself involved in, and their relationship, I thought, was very well done, especially in the back half of this film. I thought Lawn did a really great job. I really love where Ben Grimm ends up going. I'm not going to get too much into him, but I thought he did a really great job here, and I really did like his character as well. I thought his acting was also really great. The rest of the cast here all does a fairly good job. Rory Uphold as Adam's girlfriend Maya, I thought was really well casted. All of the professional rappers, I'm pretty sure they're rappers that were cemented throughout this film, they all do a fairly good job. You can tell some of them definitely are not actors. It's very easy to tell, but they do a good job with what they have overall. Anthony Michael Hall, of course, was really great here. Really, the entire cast, I thought, did a fairly good job here. What I really want to get to is the directing and the writing by Joseph Kahn, because this film could have gone so wrong. In fact, when watching the trailer, what I expected this movie to be was some obnoxious, entitled film that tried to force all of this racial sort of stuff down your throat, and it tried to make its message be the focus of the movie, and while the message is there, that's not the focus of the movie. What he does very well with this film is he knows how to satirize what goes on in rap battles, but he does not ridicule it. He isn't making fun of it. He's just showing that it can get really heated, and that it can get a little bit silly, and he doesn't always take the film that seriously. And the film is really funny. There are a lot of funny scenes in this film. The rap battles especially are just insane, and he does a really great job directing them. But what I especially loved is his authentic look at this. He approaches it in a way where you can understand, you know, the admiration that someone would love for this, the passion that they really do have, and that's something that I thought he also did a very good job of depicting here. There's a lot of fascinating stuff that he does, and when the film does eventually get emotional, it doesn't feel jarring. It makes sense why it's going into this serious way, because, like I said, the film isn't always taking itself that seriously, but it is very much grounded. It's in reality, and I think he did a really good job with riding the line between those two things, and I really did like his directing here overall. But the screenplay here by Alex Larsen also was very well written, because the film overall, like I said, you know, it's a very interesting story. I really loved getting into Adam's character right off the bat. You know, he starts off, and like I said, he's not necessarily a guy who is, you know, full-blown obsessed with this, but as the film goes on, you know, he starts to realize that this is something that he really does love to do, and this is something that he very well wants to be a part of. But the film also does a good job of showing the opposing viewpoint. His girlfriend, for example, she detests the idea of rap battling. She finds it demeaning. She thinks it is very sexist, very racist. Pretty much any sort of, you know, a hot button issue in the book, that really is a problem for her, and you really do see how, you know, again, how important those beliefs are. She stands very firmly, and she really isn't willing for anyone to convince her as to why, and I love the way the film got into that. Again, it does a good job of presenting both sides, but never telling you which one is right. The film is not saying that Maya is wrong. In fact, there are many times where the film is saying, yeah, Maya is absolutely right, but this is still something that Adam really loves to do. But you can also understand where she's coming from, because as the film goes on, we start to realize that while Adam is really good at rap battling, largely a lot of his insults are the things that he knows that he can't say. Throughout the film, there's this really cool sort of thing where he has these different ideas in his head, and he always seems to go for the worst stuff possible, the racial slurs, the sexist stuff, and he knows he shouldn't be doing it, but this is what's making him so popular. This is what's making him so adored by all of these fans. This is what's making him more confident, and I love the way the film did get into that, because then the film starts to get into some really interesting ideas of, you know, is Adam someone that, you know, is doing something wrong, or is this just, you know, standard in battle rapping? Is this, you know, is there such a thing as crossing a line? And that's something this film very well does get into, because battle rapping overall, I mean, it's very savage, and yes, people do go very far. You know, you don't necessarily hold back, but there are certain things that you shouldn't talk about, and this film does very well dive into those issues, and I thought it did in a very smart manner. I really love the way it was done. It does not beat you over the head, and it actually takes a long time for that to become the focus of the film. You know, at first, it's very much just about Adam and him starting to perfect his ability, but as the film goes on, you start to see him, like I said, become more into the culture. You start to see how this can become a problem for him, and I thought they handled that very well here. But something else the film does a very good job of doing is showing that these battle rappers aren't all battle rappers. Take the character of Ben Grimm, for example. You know, at the surface, he just seems like that's all he does. He likes to rap battle, and that's all he kind of is, but there's this really fantastic scene later on where we start to realize that that is kind of a facade, and he has this great personal life, and I was not expecting the film to dive this deep into the characters that they do, but they do a really great job with that, and I really was not expecting them to do that. There's a really fantastic sequence where we get more into his life, and it makes you understand what he's going through. It makes you realize that while he battle raps, it's very much a side career for him. This is not something that he wants to do professionally, and I thought that was really great to see. The film offers a lot of various perspectives as to why someone would or would not compete in this sort of thing, and I thought it was really well done overall. It really does a great job, like I said, of really showing all sides, and those are kind of films that I really do love. But something else that really surprised me about this film is our main character. Adam at points is really not someone that we're supposed to be rooting for. In fact, there are many parts in the film, particularly in the third act, where we are actively rooting against him, and I think that's something that they very well understood. Your main character does not need to be a great guy. Your main character does not need to be someone who is all around perfect, and that's not at all who Adam is. Adam is not really that great of a person. He just starts off the film, he's kind of a dork, and you see that it's basically starts to, as he gets more confident, he starts to become a lot more sort of douchey and a lot more, he starts to become a lot more selfish, and he starts to become a lot less caring towards people. He loses a lot in his life, and that's something else the film does not shy away from. It shows that there are consequences to his actions, and a lot of films forget to do that. A lot of films would reward him for what he does, and I love that this film did not do that. It portrayed Adam in a very realistic manner. It showed the type of person he is, and I think it understood that very well, and I really loved where he ended up going in this film, solely because it was not what I was expecting. You're not really on his side a lot of the time, and that was something that really did take me by surprise there. And especially the way this film does end. I mean, everything is not really wrapped up in a nice little bow. Things do not really go well for Adam. There's a lot of things where you're like, oh, maybe he's going to be able to turn his life around, but without really spoiling everything, things are not necessarily happy. Things do not end in a way that is necessarily satisfying, but it just feels very real. Someone like Adam who would do this to themselves and basically completely sell out, it just feels like a very realistic depiction of what could happen to that individual, and I thought it was a really great way to portray that overall. That being said, the film is still not perfect. There are a few things that do prevent this from being one of my favorites of the year, and that is that there are a lot of characters in this film, and I mean a lot. There's many various sort of subplots going on. There's many various rappers we encounter, and I'm not saying that they're bad. A lot of them I really did enjoy, but I didn't think that we got the look into them that I maybe would have wanted to. Some of them felt like we could have seen a lot more. Some of them did feel a bit shortchanged, and none of them felt like one-dimensional or everything. Like, they all felt like real people, and you understood why they're doing what they're doing, but I just wish we got a little bit more into them. The film very much is Adam, Ben Grimm, and Maya-centric. It focuses very much on those three, and I think they could have done a little bit better with diving into some of those characters. Also, a big point of this film is Adam's relationship with his dad, and it's one of the things that I found really compelling. You understand why his dad feels the way you do, but you also wish that his dad understood his son more, and we just don't see a lot of him. I wish we would have seen just a little bit more of Anthony Michael Hall overall. But what we do get with him is really effective, and there's a really fantastic scene with him in the third act of this movie that I really loved a lot, and it did make up for, I think, some of the underutilization of his character at points. Now, another thing that may bother some people, but it certainly didn't bother me, is that this film goes for it. And I mean that it is a very harsh depiction of battle rapping. It can get very offensive. There's a lot of sexist jokes, there's a lot of racist joke, there's a transphobic joke. I mean, if you guys don't like hearing sensitive things in movies, if you don't like hearing offensive stuff, this is not the movie for you, because there's a lot of that in this movie, and none of it comes across as like this is what they believe. No, they're just showing a very real depiction of battle rapping and how ridiculous it can get, and how people do try to be very personal, and how there are things that you just simply shouldn't say. And there were things that I was shocked about. It was like, holy shit, they actually went there. They actually said that. But I wasn't upset that they said that, because it's probably something that you would hear in this type of environment. And I think they did that very well. Like I said, for some people that might be an issue, but for me, it wasn't really, because I understood what Kahn was trying to do there. In terms of cinematography, this is really great cinematography. The battle rapping scenes especially are very well filmed. They're very intense. They're very in your face. And you really do feel that tension throughout the film. Like I said, there's a really cool visual gag where even in casual conversation, you know, Adam will just start to have these mental notes of like things he should not say in battle rapping, and he goes for it. And it was really funny, but at the same time, it's one of those things where you're kind of on the edge of your seat, like, no, don't say that, but then he says it, and you're like, no, why would you do that? And I loved how well they used that. I thought it was a really well done visual sort of motif, and I thought it worked very well here. The score in this film as well is really great. Most of it, of course, is battle rapping, and I think that the score was really good. And the editing as well, I also thought was really great. The film clocks in at 2 hours, and there are points where it drags a little bit, but for the most part, I was very much into it. I thought there were a lot of really great scenes. Nothing really went on too long for me, and I was very much into it for the most part. Bodied overall is a much different film than I expected. This film is much more focused on this. So overall, Bodied really surprised me. This is a much more authentic look at battle rapping than I really did expect. It has a rock-solid lead character who I truly do think goes through one of the best arcs of the entire year. A really great performance from Calum. It definitely does not hold back in terms of what goes on in battle rapping, things like that, but it also gives you a lot of insight as to why someone would try to join this type of thing, and I thought that was very well done. It really does a good job presenting both sides as well, and it never really does feel in your face, but like I said, it also remembers to be funny. It never takes itself too seriously, but it isn't afraid to get serious, and overall, it is one of the best things YouTube Red has done. I'm really starting to put a little bit more faith into them. I'm hoping that this isn't just a fluke. I'm hoping that they start to maybe deliver some more really great films, because this is definitely much closer to what they need to be doing. It's a much better film than I really could have asked for, and it's much better than I think it really had any right to be whatsoever. And I am overall going to give Bodied an A-. Like I said, if you would have maybe given me a little less characters and focused in a little bit more on him and his father's relationship, this could have easily been one of my favorites of the year, but it's still a damn great movie, and one that I don't think enough people are watching. And again, it's another one. Do not judge it by the trailer, because it is much different than that. But either way, guys, in my review of Bodied, let me know what you guys saw this movie overall. Love your thoughts, and we'll see you guys in my next video, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.